relationship with Miss Jefferson. No further questions, Your Honor.
Am I done up here?
You may sit, Chief Deputy McDonnell. Call your first witness.
The defense calls its final witness, Mr. Dallas Carter.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give in the present case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, under penalty of perjury?
I do.
You may be seated.
So, Mr. Carter, let's go ahead and start at the beginning. What can you tell us about your side of the incident? What happened?
Look, I'm not proud of what happened, but that's how it went down. She pushed me to the point where I couldn't think straight. I wasn't the one who started throwing punches. I didn't go there looking for a fight. I just wanted to talk, but she kept pushing me, throwing things, insulting me. And then she attacked. I didn't know what to do. She hit me first, not the other way around. And when I felt trapped, when I couldn't breathe from the burn in my eyes, that's when I snapped. It's not an excuse for what happened next, but that's the truth. I didn't plan on it getting that far. I panicked.
When she was hitting you, how was she hitting you? Miss Jefferson mentioned a plastic wine glass.
Yeah, she punched me a few times, closed fist. Hurt, but I didn't retaliate. I just kept trying to back away. She slapped me too, hit me right across the face. That one stung. I didn't know plastic could cut you, but she threw that glass at me and it hit my shoulder. Didn't even know it was cut at first, but the wine, that burned like hell. That's when I lost it. I didn't expect any of it, but it wasn't like I just stood there. She kept coming at me, getting more aggressive. I didn't know what else to do.
So the item that was thrown at you was in fact a glass object? So obviously, you were pretty hurt. You originally came in for an explanation and walked right into a beating of your own, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I didn't go there looking for trouble. I knocked on the door, just wanted to talk. But instead of talking, she came at me with insults, and then it escalated from there. She threw the glass at me, and that's when it hit my shoulder. I didn't expect any of it. I was hurt, yeah, but it wasn't like I went there ready for a fight. I was just trying to get her to listen. Once the glass hit me and burned my eyes, I couldn't think straight. I just wanted to get away from the situation. It wasn't like I went there planning to hurt her. That's not what happened. It wasn't a beating. It was a mess, a misunderstanding that spiraled out of control.
What was your intention in meeting with her at that point?
Look, no, that footage, that wasn't what it seemed like. The next day, I tried reaching out to her. I was worried, trying to apologize for how things went down the night before. I didn't hear from her, so yeah, I was concerned. I thought maybe she had gotten herself into some kind of trouble, or maybe she wasn't being honest with me. When I saw her heading to that truck again, I couldn't shake the feeling something was off, so I followed it. I wasn't stalking her, I just wanted to make sure she was okay. And yeah, once I saw him drop her off at his house, I went to knock on her window to talk to her. I didn't want to make a scene. I wasn't trying to do anything crazy, just to get some answers.
So you were coming from a place of worry and concern for her. Knowing that things were taken way out of control. Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
The state has no questions, Your Honor.
You may step down. Call your next witness.
No further witnesses, Your Honor.
Very well. Since the defense has no further witnesses, we will proceed to closing arguments. Prosecution, you may begin.
Your Honor, you have heard the testimony, you have seen the evidence, and now you must weigh the facts and make a decision. The defendant, Dallas Carter, has left a trail of destruction, violence, and suffering in his wake, and it is now your responsibility to hold him accountable for his actions. We began this trial by hearing from Ms. Harlow Jefferson, who bravely recounted the terrifying assault she suffered at the hands of the defendant. Mr. Carter, in a fit of jealousy, arrived at her home, confronted her about a car in her driveway, and violently attacked her. Ms. Jefferson was left unconscious, hanging on to life by a thread, only to be discovered by a friend, who found her in that devastating condition. The defendant's actions that day were not the result of an isolated outburst, they were a clear and intentional attack, one that placed Ms. Jefferson's life in jeopardy. But the violence didn't stop there. Just days later, when law enforcement arrived with an arrest warrant for the assault on Ms. Jefferson, Dallas Carter escalated the situation to a level we rarely see. Rather than submitting to arrest, he chose violence. He fired on a police officer, narrowly missing him. Then, In cold blood, he shot another officer in the arm, an officer who now faces severe, life-altering injuries. But Mr. Carter didn't stop there. He took a woman hostage, threatened her life, and fired yet another shot, this time hitting an officer in the chest, whose life was only spared by the protection of a vest. Mr. Carter's actions were reckless, violent, and put the lives of multiple people at risk, including law enforcement and innocent civilians. You've heard from Deputy Chief McDonnell, who described the chaos and danger officers faced during the arrest. And you've heard from other witnesses, including the officers who survived these brutal attacks. What does all of this tell you? It tells you that Dallas Carter is not someone who can claim self-defense or blame his actions on a momentary lapse of judgment. His actions were calculated, intentional, and malicious. Now, the defense may try to distract you with claims of provocation or claims that Mr. Carter wasn't in control of his actions. But the evidence is clear. Mr. Carter knew exactly what he was doing when he attacked Ms. Jefferson, when he fired on law enforcement officers, and when he held that woman hostage. This wasn't a man reacting impulsively. This was a man who made a series of choices that resulted in harm, injury, and terror for everyone involved. The law is clear. Violence cannot be justified by jealousy, anger, or fear. The defendant's actions on that day were not just criminal, they were a conscious choice to inflict harm. You must hold him accountable for that choice. You've seen the evidence, and you've heard the testimony. Now, I ask you to return a verdict that reflects the gravity of these crimes. Dallas Carter must be held responsible for the assault on Ms. Jefferson, the injuries inflicted on the officers, and the terror he caused.
I think we all heard what was said today, in this courtroom alone. It was uncertain from the beginning. Between whether the wine glass was glass or plastic, all the way down to the basic of things. A simple statement from my client. The law today will have failed if we find my client guilty for simply defending himself from being beaten by Miss Jefferson. It is not often heard that men are the beaten, but it does happen, and for that situation to turn into a witch hunt because of the relation between Miss Jefferson and the deputy chief. How is that justice? That is making a martyr where there should not be one. The simple fact remains. There are actions and there are reactions, and that is the basis of today's case. Do we punish a man who wanted clarification in a situation and ended up being hit and had items thrown at him, all because of something that could have ended verbally? Ask yourselves, is that the type of society we want? Thank you.
After reviewing the circumstances surrounding this case, including the allegations of bias due to the relationship between Chief Deputy McDonnell and one of the witnesses, the court must address a significant concern regarding impartiality and conflict of interest. In the state of California, as outlined by department policies and ethical guidelines, a police officer involved in a romantic relationship with a key witness cannot ethically or legally serve as the lead investigator in a case that involves that witness's testimony. This is a clear conflict of interest, which calls into question the integrity of the investigation and the handling of evidence. Given that this was not disclosed early in the process, and acknowledging the potential influence such a relationship could have had on the investigation's outcomes, the court is left with no choice but to declare a mistrial in this case. A mistrial does not negate the seriousness of the charges brought against Mr. Dallas Carter. However, the integrity of the legal process must be upheld. As such, this case will be re-examined with a new team of investigators. Until that time, Mr. Carter will be held on bail, and we will proceed with setting a new trial date once the investigation is deemed unbiased and fully thorough. Court is adjourned.